Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Trader Minute. It's great to have you on board. I'm Carl. Thanks for tuning in here. And futures here this morning up a little bit. This morning had some revised GDP numbers come out, and they were revised up pretty sharply up to the 4.1% compared to about 3.6% that was reported earlier. So it's saying the economy is growing at a faster pace than in about 2 years. Last time it's grown at this fast of a pace was back in Q4 of 2011. Some business spending was also stronger than expected, the previous estimates, anyways, suggesting underlying strength that is likely to continue, so they say. So, yeah, the economy is looking pretty good out there for the market. All right, so up a little bit here this morning. Again, after that huge run we saw after the Fed announcement, for yesterday to hold it today looks early on here it's up slightly. Little moves at this point, either up or down, are going to be bullish for the market. All right, if you get some big strong moves back down below the 1800 level in the S&P, then that would be a little bit concerning. But these little holds at these higher levels here is pretty bullish. All right, for the market. Now our two positions right now, with Boeing and Chesapeake, there's not really any indication as to what they're doing. They appear to be open fairly flat, if not up slightly. The bid-ask spreads are pretty wide on them, so not really an indication there as far as our two positions. Gold, interesting, up like three. Had a big sell-off yesterday, up like three today. It's around $1,200 an ounce, and someone was saying it yesterday. It's probably going down to 1,000 or even below. Yeah, probably. Man, it might take some of all of those gold shows. There's all those gold shows on Discovery and some of those channels like that. Maybe some of those will start fading as the it's not quite as pricey as it was once was. Right, but yeah, that's just been a slow bleed for gold. And Oracle. I bring this up. Oracle's buying a company by the name of Responsys, and Responsys ticker symbol is MKTG. They're buying them for $27 a share, about $1.5 billion worth. It just reminds me, there's a couple local companies here in Utah that have been bought out over the last few years, and some billionaires created. It's a pretty cool story, and I don't know these guys from Responsive at all, but some of the companies here that were bought out, to see the cars the guys are driving around occasionally. Yeah, they're driving some nice cars. One of them was bought out by Adobe here a few years back, and then another one, a security company, was bought out by BlackRock quite a few years back too. But yeah, it's some neat stories. And again, I don't know responses or how that all goes out, but whenever I hear about these big dogs buying up some pretty good size companies, it just reminds me of those stories here. And Darren, yeah, you bring up a good point there with BlackBerry. Let's look at their chart, because that's what's interesting. And Jake, I think you brought this up too, is what BlackBerry's numbers. They lost 67 cents a share. Revenues came in at 1.2 billion versus the 1.58 billion estimate, and they sold 1.1 million of the BlackBerry 10 handsets. Yet look at, they fall down to the 5.7 area and come right back up. Now there's been a lot of talk about this company lately and them going under, and what their valuations are as far as just their assets. And this might be more of a valuation of their assets than an EPS number right here. Maybe the assets are valued up to around this $6.50 range. I don't know. I mean, it'd be something to go look at and see. I'd have to go back through some of those articles that I've read here the last week or so, because that's been the talk of them going under. But what are their assets worth when they go? And it was in the billions. Well, it seems like it was in the billions as far as the assets that they have. And that might be that type of a story playing out here on BlackBerry. Walgreens, they reported inline earnings Revenues at about 18.3 billion versus just under 18 billion. So they'd be a little bit as far as what Walgreens is doing this morning, up and then back down. And that's the thing about earnings is you just never know. They might report great numbers, they might have some strong guidance. Everything looks fine, the stock sells off. You just never know what an earnings announcement's going to do. That's why they're so difficult to play. Even with a straddle or anything like that, they're just difficult to play. You need these big moves for those straddles. But then you never know what's going on out there. You might have the Carl Icahns of the world selling into a great earnings announcement like you did at Netflix. You never know what's going on behind the scenes out there when these announcements are made. Sometimes they've really reported really strong numbers, yet they guided lower. There's reasons as to why they'll go the opposite direction, but sometimes you just don't know because everything looks good and it sounds good and then just goes the opposite way. And so it could, who knows? Maybe it's some big funds selling into a great announcement or an icon of the world or people like that. It's tough to say. Nike, another one of the big ones last night. Nike, they had earnings. It was pretty volatile for a little while there, and just overall not that much of a reaction. They beat by a cent. The revenues were pretty much in line. Yeah, they say their futures orders were up about 13%. Okay, but really, right now, not much of a reaction from Nike out there. And then another one that we've been looking at. I showed you guys this one. It had a beautiful signal on it. The Bollinger Bands were extremely tight. This is Red Hat. Now, you would have never wanted to hold this till earnings. Of course, in hindsight, I said you guys should have bought this. Dang it. But I was looking at it right here on this day over here where it had a Trendwriter bull signal. The Bollinger Bands came, it got super tight, jumped up into the upper band, but they announced earnings, and the earnings they beat by 7 cents. Revenues at 3.79 million versus the 383 million estimate. But however, their deferred revenue is up 19% in the U.S. and a little bit more abroad. That's what's taken this thing higher. Just a big time move, gapping way up like that, and they're up 15%. Just a huge move. And yeah, this one you just watch it and wish you were in it, but don't trade it until it settles back down somewhere. Some pretty big time moves. And of course, I saw some upgrades on it this morning. I think that's so funny. I guess I should be an analyst. Find a company that reported some good earnings and the stock's way up, and hey, before the market opens, let's go upgrade it. Make me look like a genius if you're not paying attention to the market. So yeah, Red Hat got some upgrades this morning, and BlackBerry got some downgrades after the announcements. Yes. All right, let's go check out our positions. Boeing this morning up about 38 cents. It's a good start. We want this thing to start pushing upwards off the 135 mark, up off the 7 there. All right, no real indication yet. It's so early, and you hear me say that about every morning, and not much of an indication. And our latest position here is on Chesapeake, and this is a vibe entry. This is not a challenge trade, as we pointed out in all the messages that went out. But and we'll be making vibe trades once or twice a week, and we're going to take those from one of the top 3 stocks like we did yesterday, and go make a trade on it. And with Vibe or a Trendwriter entrance, we in our account we'll take $2,000, as close as 2,000 as we can get, and put it in and put that into each of these trades. All right. Price target here, I saw a question of that earlier. Price target, it's about 28.5 to the 29 area. Put in 28.5 as the first stop. If it hits that and it starts to weaken, we'll pop out right there. If it goes, if it seems to want to keep going higher at that point, then we might hold it a little bit longer. We're not going to push these too much. Some of the challenge trades we will push because we want to get the big time gains here. Not quite as aggressive as far as wanting to squeeze everything we can get out of it. And we don't always do that with challenge trades either, but it would be a little bit quicker to take gains here with this type of an entrance. All right, so those are the two positions so far. Not a lot much indications. And let's look at the other top three from yesterday. I just had two last night, and this was 3D. Gapping up about 58 cents this morning. It's off to a good start. It's early to see at this point, but still the technicals look strong in all of our trades that we're in right now, as well as 3D. And I think some of you guys got into this. Jimmy's asking if anybody got in. A lot of talk was on this yesterday. I know some of you got out yesterday with a nice gain on it. And we didn't make this trade here, but it was one of the top threes. And I was watching this throughout the day as well, and it held up nice into the close last night. Solar City, yeah, man, huge breakout yesterday on some big volumes, and this morning gapping up a little bit higher. This is a Elon Musk company, and he's got some pretty revolutionary ideas. I've read a little bit about the guy, and I like his ideas, and if he could pull it off, wow, all more power to him. And he's the guy that also says he has plans to build a train. Maybe not plans, or well, yeah, he's done the work and be able to build a bullet train that will cross the United States. And I forget what it was. It was like within an hour or two, a couple 2-3 hours or something like that, or less. I don't remember exactly. I'd have to go dig that article out. But he's got some pretty revolutionary ideas, and you gotta respect the guy with those kind of thinking outside of the box type things, because there's a lot of new technology out there, and put to the right use you could do some amazing things, and that's what he's doing. And if he doesn't find it, he's building it. It's pretty cool to see guys like that. Yeah, and you bring up Eastman Kodak, and that always reminds me, because Eastman Kodak, Kodachrome. Who was that saying that? Paul Simon. One of my favorites songs. Um, that was the cool thing way back, right? Color pictures and all that kind of stuff. And anyways, I have an uncle down in Tucson, Arizona, and he had basically cornered the market in film processing. During the 70s and 80s, 90s, and and did extremely well. And then here came this digital photography, right? Where you don't really need to take your film somewhere; you can do it at home. And it's hurt his business quite a bit. He's down to about half what he was, But yeah, it's just I saw firsthand how that affected the the Eastman Kodaks of the world and so forth. Yes, PW, we are at a HAL. We exited HAL before the Fed announcement. We exited that morning before the Fed announcement is when we got a Halliburton. The Halliburton, about 43 cents. It showed some strength around that 49. We got out just because we didn't want to stay for the Fed announcement. It broke 49, which was our hard stop. So we exited, and then the Fed announcement has taken those other two positions that we were in at that time a little bit higher. Intel this morning, it's gapping up a little bit. It did this a little bit yesterday. Just watch it. It still looks strong, but this is even if it finished right here, this is bullish consolidation. If I zoom in on that, bullish consolidation after this big move right here that we saw on Wednesday, like most other stocks that just skyrocketed. After that move right there, quite a kind of volatile day yesterday, but just closed slightly low. Even if this closes slightly down or right here, it's just bullish consolidation. Let this 7 catch up with it. And when it hits the 7 again and takes off and look for a bounce higher off the 7, then it's going to put you in the trade. All right. But as far as making a trade, I wouldn't make it here. I'd let that 7 catch up a little bit. If you're in a trade, I wouldn't worry about it. There's nothing technically weak right at this point. So it looks fine. Yeah, Richard, that's you read that too. A train with a vacuum tube. Yeah, I don't get the technology there, but it sounds cool. I mean, it's not even going to sit on tracks. Well, it's going to float on tracks or whatever. I don't know how it works, but man, I and it was dirt cheap. I mean, to ride from coast to coast wouldn't cost you that much either. That's what I think that was pretty cool too. I got to dig that article out now. It's been a long time. Wow, there's a nice chart for you. It's not trading right now. I don't know if it's been halted or what, but it's not trading. And the market's open about 10 minutes here. But this is yet, at least here at stock charts, it's not trading. You'll see a little yellow candlestick on the far right if it's trading, but you can see it's not trading. I don't know if it's been halted or what, but this has got some really, really light volumes. And we don't trade most of these just simply because if they're optionable, the spreads are probably ridiculous. But man, very strong move here. It's up towards the highs, and that's where. But that volume right here could push it right up through the $10 area. But there's going to be some consolidation here. If you happen to be in the trade, you could stay in it as long as it closes here in the upper band like it's been doing. If it gets up towards 10, that's where I'd between 975 and 10. If it starts to weaken at all, that's where I would. Oh wow, cool, Smitty. In a tube like at the drive-through at the bank. Wow, even cooler. I would fly to L.A. just to catch that thing if it didn't stop anywhere else. Just to catch it and ride it. I mean, that would be awesome. And then ride it back the same day. That would be way cool. Every now and then, Darren, I do Yahoo. I do the Yahoo Finance thing. And so here's Yahoo. Still looking strong. It's breaking out right now. It's really early in the day, right? It is a gap today, but there's a little bit of an ascending triangle pattern. And these are a flag pattern. There's different things you could call this, but um, it's breaking out above 40 today. And that's what these patterns normally suggest is a continuation of the trend. So you got an uptrend intact, forms a little bit of a triangle here. Yeah, you notice the bottom of the triangle keep getting higher and higher and higher, yet the top is remaining the same. It's on one of the bigger round numbers there of 40. A push up through this would be very bullish. Could take it up to the another $2-3. But yeah, it still looks strong here. If you happen to be in this, just stay in it. There's no signs of weakening here. Harley Davidson. I was watching this yesterday. It did. I was looking at this. This is a stock I'll look at. It did. If I bring in the vibe here. Oh, thanks support. If I bring in the vibe here, it was a vibe entrance yesterday. It sold off a little bit, but this is still a bullish pattern. I didn't put it in my top three. I was watching this, but you notice when this is when you got all the averages rising, and look at these little moves right here. I want to point this out. I like the stronger candlesticks when it pushes up through that 7. The weaker candlesticks are close slightly above it to me, and of course I'm looking at hindsight. I can impress you all day, right? Um, the weaker ones are a slight push above the 7. I like the stronger candlesticks. The stronger candlesticks are the ones that seem to have the most follow through in these type of a trend. The pretty decent candle yesterday. Not saying it's not. It's a pretty strong candle there, and getting a little bit of follow through on it today. As far as the indicators, a little weakening, not a whole lot. You can see them popping down a little bit here. MACD is slightly going over, so it could be some slight divergence here as far as indicators weakening while the stock has been going up. So I'd watch it around the $69 to $70 area if this keeps going up here. But yeah, not a bad looking chart. Zillow. So it's got the indicator starting to rise here. Looking, you got a positive MACD signal here. A very positive sign for the MACD is when it crosses up and above zero. It's not there yet, but when it gets, the MACD is one of the stronger signals. When it gets above zero or when it drops below zero is when this thing has some pretty good readings. It's not there yet on Zillow. You could look here and say, is there a bottom locked in? Yeah, it looks like it. Right here, watch for a higher low to be set. It's right here at 80. This could be a number for it. 80 is one of the bigger numbers, and as far as our big round number, it might have a little bit it might take some time to get through that level right there. It might push right through it, but this is where I'd expect a little bit of resistance. It's also just broke up through the 50-day average. And just looking at the 50, it's for this one, it's okay. It's all right as support and resistance. Seems to hit it a little bit. So it got through it. It might come back a little bit, might retest the 80, but a push up here off through 80 after maybe couple days or so of consolidation and let that 7 catch up would be a very strong signal. Likely going to take it higher. So there it is. It's yeah, shooting up to trend, now trading here at stock charts. At least it's running here at stock charts. This is the level I'd watch it here, but with those volumes right here, this could just keep going. It might not stop, but there will be a time here when the profit taking will come, and you'll see a little bit of a pullback here. Check the news back on about the 10th, the 9th or 10th of December is where you're going to find some news on this, and obviously it was pretty big news. Now this is the company that's being acquired by Oracle, and I've noticed they weren't trading earlier on. They're not trading now, at least here at stock charts. So they might have halted trading here. Now they're bought out. This company is being bought out by Oracle at $27 a share. So you can see this open up to about $27 a share. Yeah, Darren, nice on Yahoo. Just keep letting it go for you. Hasbro. Yeah, look at that candle. Gaps down to about 50, is run up and gone positive this morning. Thanks, John. Google, yeah, wow. This had a nice. This is a day where on Wednesday this big time reversal. Like most stocks in the market reversed big time on Wednesday. This was a vibe bull signal. Oops, want to do that. Vibe bull signal where you had everything going up, and then you see this nice big strong candlestick up through the 7. It's just in gapping higher and running already up about $8 this morning. It's about not even quite 1%. But man, nice. Yeah, 1100 written all over it. I mean, it's only $6 away. It could hit that today, not without much of a problem. For Hal, if I was still in it, yeah, push and hold here above 50. That's what it was doing the day we got in. Halliburton right here. We got in right here on Monday, pushing up like that. Had a strong candlestick like this. Just reversed on us, and it's been holding the 49 ever since. We got out on it on Wednesday again before the Feds, right there at that bottom. Well, not the bottom, but we got out there as it broke 49. We just didn't want to risk it anymore. Any more losses. Okay, and right now, yeah, a close like this up through the 50 would be very strong. I'd stay in the trade. We'll watch this throughout the day and make sure that holds up like that. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of those trades that looked good. The setup looked right. Went against us, knocked us out. And then the Feds came in, made everything rosy in the market again, and there it went. So, Goldman Sachs. So Goldman Sachs, on that giant Fed day here, got way too far away. This was one we were watching, but it just went too far that day. And this is a reason why when these go so far so fast, we're going to hesitate on them. Risk reward changes. I mean, where do you set a stop on that day? It's clear up here. We're going to make most of the entrances towards the end, so it's clear up here. Where do you set a stop? $3, $4 down lower? Well, no, you don't want to do that. So you got to let it settle down. That's what it's doing. This is just bullish consolidation. A little bit bearish consolidation would be these big moves. So if you happen to be in a trade over here and all of a sudden you see it flying back to the 7, like, well, that's not a good example here, but sorry, that's not a very good example. This is a better one. Just a crash back to the 7 is bearish consolidation. These little moves like this, where it gets a long ways away from the 7, like right over here, gets a long ways away from the 7, just kind of goes sideways and down a little bit, very bullish. And that 7 catches up with it, and then you get a big push back up through the 7. There's your signal. It's still strong. I mean, if I was in calls here, I wouldn't get out. What would scare me is on a big day where it came roaring back down to the 7, but these little days like this, and we're early on right here, but little days like this is nothing to worry about. With Yelp, Yelp Hill here, a very strong signal on this. It's it's just right on the 7. Just it gets up and goes back down to it. It just can't seem to get off the 7. Eventually, you're going to get a nice push off of the 7, and that's what you're looking for. You had one over here. Then you had the Feds where it reversed and came back up. It's still holding the 7. It's right there in the 50-day moving average. If you're looking for an entrance here, this is what you need. You need to push up off of it. I mean, I'd like to see it break up above the 67.5, up through the 7, up through the 50-day moving average. That would be a very strong signal that the thing's likely going to go higher. These small days like that, it's kind of tougher to tell, but that's what I'd look for here is a push up like that. I wouldn't be bearish on it. Indicators of MACD starting to rise, rate of change rising, average is pretty much rising, but I'd look for a pretty nice strong push up off of it. Price line here, pushing up there towards the 1200 mark. It had a big reversal on Wednesday, like most stocks. At this point, if I wasn't in the trade, I want to see this thing break through 1200. To break at 1200, and it's going to skyrocket again. And but watch that level for it. It's got to push up through it. It might even retest that level. It might get through it and come back and test it and see if that holds as support. But the volumes have been pretty strong on it, so there's a good chance it can get up through 1200. MRO, yeah, I had a big strong candle yesterday, getting some follow through today. A push up through that 7 and up through the 35.5 mark. Would be what I'd be looking for here. I'd watch for a little bit of a pullback somewhere and let a higher high come in here. But yeah, you're right, Max. This is a pretty good strong group. Neighbors, out of the one when you posted this yesterday, technically Neighbors here was the strongest setup technically on these charts, and the reason being was this bottoming process right here. Had some good volumes here during this time when it was around the bottoms. That's right when it was around the 1575, even got a little bit lower here. Look at the strong volumes holding it. And those strong volumes, that's what helps you find a bottom. It's tough to find bottoms if it's just a big day, one day down, and then it comes rocketing back off. And when it kind of settles like that and flattens out, and it got some big volumes there, there's a better sign that this thing's likely to run. And that's what it's doing. And this is a good group, a very strong group of stocks that you've listed here, Max. But yeah, I mean, as far as an entrance, I would, we're quite a ways from the 7. Let it consolidate a little bit. It might just take off on you, but I always like to let it consolidate a little bit. But I'd agree with you, very bullish on those stocks. EMC doing exactly what we were expecting it to do. Of course, after the fact, we got on a very nice day right here on Monday. Did the same thing as Halliburton, sold off. We got out here on this push below our stop on that day right there before the Fed. And then after the Fed is where it all turned around and still looks strong. I mean, man, if you're still in this trade, watch it today. I mean, it's getting quite a ways off of 7, but it doesn't mean it has to stop. It just means it raises the chances that some consolidation back towards it. Okay, so, but right now it still looks strong. I wouldn't get out if I was in this. FedEx. Yeah, I mean, is the paint drying here today? If we get a strong push, this would be a couple things here. So I mean, if it to close up above it, it's done this before, so it's early to say, right? It had same kind of move over here, and it sold off. But watch it. I mean, a stronger push here would be what I'm after. It's be a vibe bull signal. Yet if you bring in the Bollinger Bands, and it goes up in the upper Bollinger Band, geez, that's a trend rider bear, a bull signal. So you'd have bull signals after a big, long, strong, it's almost a month now of some consolidation here in an extremely tight range, about a $2.50 range for a $137 stock. That's a tight range. And yeah, a breakout higher here would just be awesome. And the other one that we were watching for this was U.S. Steel, and it just took off it gapped up into the band and then ran higher yesterday, and it did that off of the news out of AKS. Starbucks, it's coming off the bottom. It's got up through the 7 here. As far as if I was in it, I would not get out. If I'm looking for an entrance, I'd find there's better setups. It's probably going to go higher. It's had a pretty decent bottoming, process right through this range here. But what I like to see again, if it like close here today, and then let this 7 catch up with it, and now it's looking like it's going to lock in a higher low right here, and push back up off the 7. That would be a nice entrance. It's not saying it's not going to go. It's just there's not a lot of things telling us right now which way it's going to go, other than hey, I think it's going to go higher. And I always like to put as many of the technicals on my side as I can. As many of the odds as I can working. Yeah, the FDX. I hope it does close up there. Chipotle Mexican Grill. I don't think they have breakfast. Too early for that, but a close right here would be pretty positive for this stock. And let's show you. So the bands are getting tighter in here, but if I bring in the vibe, a couple other things going on here as well. Some early divergence right here on the rate of change. The MACD, it's off your screen here. We don't have that yet. It's been a longer trend right here, a longer downtrend right here. So the MACD's been going down for a little bit, but it's about ready to give a positive signal right around 0. But this type of a move, you notice what it's been holding here is the 50-day moving average. Got down to it for about a week, almost a week, and held it every single day. A push higher off the 7, off the 50-day moving average, up above 520 would be very, very bullish for this. 530 would be well within reach of that, if not even a little bit higher than that. That's what I look for. The volumes have built as it dropped down towards the 50 as well. That'd be a very strong signal right there. I like it. BlackRock. Yeah, this one, I've been watching this one. Vibe bull signal right over here. You would have had to suffer through the Fed announcement and see it run below 300, but this is a very strong move right now. If I bring in the trend rider, you could stay in this trade until it closes inside that upper band right there. It closed in it yesterday, and as traders, you get to make these decisions. You could say I'm going to stay until it closes below, and then it just like closes right at towards the highs. If I go back here and zoom in on that for you, here's what's going through your mind on that day yesterday. If you're in the trade, man, it's closing inside the upper band, yet it's still closing towards the highs of that big candlestick there, which is kind of bullish. Do I get out here because it's closing inside the band? Do I hold it another day? That's what you got to make as traders. You got to make those decisions. If you stay in, it's you're still in it. You can, yeah, you can step out a little bit of time if you want to do something like that. But and those are the choices you got to make. If you didn't get out, then hey, still in it. But those stops, you can set them so easy. It's like, well, if it closes back inside there, if it closes below the 7, but then there's always the iffy ones. Do I? And that's what you get to do as traders is make those decisions. Canadian Solar, a push into the upper Bollinger Band at this point would trigger a trend right or bull signal. You can see the Bollingers, they're tight right in here, so I wouldn't necessarily think this is going to be resistance at it. It's also up there. If I bring in a vibe, and this is where you're going to see a little bit better. It had a vibe bull yesterday as it's pushed up off. It came back to the 7, pushed up off of it. It's also got above 30, and that might be what it do today. It might come back retest 30, right around there. But right now, I mean, if I was in this trade, I wouldn't get out. As far as an entrance, right here and now, there's better signals out there, but as it's coming up to 32, I'd find it a better. I mean, I still think it's bullish. I think liking to go higher, but I think there's better signals out there. Just doesn't have everything I'm wanting to see on it as far. I mean, MACD is probably going to get a positive signal here, but it's just I think there's better signals that's going to you'll be able to see. Apple, up about $4 here, almost $5 here. For me to get bullish, it's got to break through 550, get back up through that 7-day moving average. And probably even a little bit better than that. It's right here, even if it closed right here, it's just still, I mean, more bearish consolidation than anything. Looking at this technically, I know it's up almost $5, but technically there's not much to react to here as far as being bullish on it at this point. All right, let's check out our positions. Boeing up $1.21. That's good. That's what we want, is for this thing to push up. It's still early, but pushing this upper band would be a great end to the week right here on Boeing. And then CHK gapped up just slightly, and that's about right where it sits. So nothing here to react to. It's a good looking setup, trend right or bull. It was just about a trend right or bull signal, and also a strong vibe signal as well. If I show you what we were looking at here. Well, the MACD's off your screen, but it's uptrending. You also have uptrending here, uptrending stock. It's been battling the $27 area as some resistance. Yet you have the 50-day moving average right there, the 7's right there. Yesterday it ran through the 50-day, it ran through the 7, had some strong volumes, which makes it even a little bit more juicy. Jumped up through 27 on a strong candlestick there. Beautiful signal right here. And so we're just going to let it play out today and push up, and it's just about ready to just a slight move higher here. We're in the upper Bollinger Band, which would make it a trend right or bull signal, and it's got the volumes there as well. So a very strong technical signal. We're going to let this play out. What do you think, John? Is ExxonMobil bullish? John's our resident specialist Yeah, energy specialist. Yeah, I mean, right now, big strong push on the announcement on Wednesday. Some very bullish consolidation yesterday, and even today, it's down slightly. What would be bearish if it started pulling back hard? So let's say that today wound up like, well, let me draw that in there for you. Let's say today wound up something like that, where it's really pulling back hard. That's where I'd get a little bit nervous. It's still a bit, be still above the 7, but I'm bullish on these energy stocks. I don't see it. If it just little tiny days like this, if it closed here and maybe closed just under 99, and that 7 keeps coming up on it, it's bullish. I wouldn't worry. There's nothing to react to right here, bearish. Google. Yeah, I mean, nice. This was a vibe bull signal on Wednesday here. Pushed higher yesterday, still pushing higher. Just watch it. Let me bring in the bands. Watch this. I'm just looking to see if the bands are expanding. It says that they're contracting slightly, but I mean, they're not really. It can still just keep going like this. Last time it got up through the 1080 mark, it didn't hold it. It retested it, didn't hold it. But you notice the lows keep getting higher and higher and higher, and the highs keep getting higher as well. So it's likely to go up a little bit further than this and then push back and set another higher low. Now, as far as indicators, there's still strength here on the indicators. There's been good volumes. It still looks bullish. If I was in this, I wouldn't enter it now, but if I was in this, I'd stay in. Watch today's candle, but I'd stay in this. And if it turned into a little bit of a gravestone, and I had some gains, I might take it. A gravestone just looks like an upside down capital T, uh, something like that. If it had that today, it's still not all that bearish, but just suggesting short-term weakness. If I had a decent gain, I'd probably get out, but I think it's probably going to keep going. Okay, everybody, I will be on chat with you all day long. If you have any questions, just let me know. And you can also reach me through email, carl@traderminute.com. Have a great morning, and well, let me look at one more stock. Thanks, Dallas. Yeah, this is one to watch here. Very close to a trend rider bull signal here. And this is also, if I bring in the vibe, you're going to notice that this is also a vibe entry, a vibe signal. Oops. So a vibe signal here, you got all the averages rising. And today it's pushing up off the 7. It went a little bit lower earlier on, pushed up off the 7. So this is a good vibe signal. We got resistance, the latest round of resistance here at 18. But you notice it's been building a longer term ascending triangle ascending triangle pattern here. I'd watch the volumes. They have been building at this range right here, but the volumes is going to, if it has weaker volumes going to 18, it's probably not going to break it. But with the pattern here suggesting to break here of 18, it might take a little time, might take a little doing, but it's probably going to break up through that. If you want to wait for that, you'd probably miss some of this action. This is pretty bullish action here. If it jumps in the upper Bollinger Band, then you got a trend rider, which is a more explosive type of a signal, suggesting that's likely to go up. But right now, the volumes are really good for being the market open 35 minutes to see that kind of volume for this stock. It's a lighter traded stock. It's so the options, are, if it has them, the spreads are likely to be wide. Not always, but spreads are likely to be wide. But as far as buying the stock, it looks pretty bullish at this point. Home builders. Yeah, for this one to get up to the 18.5 mark into the upper band, let bring in the vibe here. It's right there in the 200-day moving average as well. So a strong finish here. a close up towards the highs, breaking the 200 right there would be pretty big. For most stocks, the 200 is pretty decent support slash resistance. Okay. And then Ryland, same thing. I like this is right here at the 200-day moving average as well. A breakup at those levels would be very bullish. The fact that it got above 40, still holding the level, is bullish. But technically, I'd like it to get that through that 200. It might do it today. And then KBH. So this is a little bit weaker than the others, but drop below the 7 to get bullish here. I'd like to see this get up through 17, get up through the 50-day there, and the 7, where I'd like to see this. And they had announced earnings, I think it was just yesterday. They had earnings, and that's what caused the drop here. So that's why you're seeing this one a little bit weaker than the others. But watch this one. Okay, everybody. Again, I'll be with you on chat. Take care. I'll talk to you in a few. All right. Bye-bye.